In a wealthy family that lived in the village of Narada, northeast of and not far from Rajagaha, there was a youth named Apatissa. He became fast friends with Kalida, who lived in a neighboring village. They often discussed their aims and goals. One day the two friends viewed the throng of people drifting around at a mountain festival and felt deep repugnance. They sought out a quiet place and, gazing down at Rajagaha at the foot of the mountain, steeped themselves in contemplation. They thought,
"Those people in bustling crowds, hungering for fleeting dreams, are engrossed in pleasures. How many of them will be alive 100 years from now? Even while they are captivated by the music played by heavenly Gandhara musicians, the sadness of human beings will come upon them unrestrained. That city that appears in the distance will someday crumble. What use is it for someone who will crumble to seek something that will also crumble?"
The two youths became mendicants together and, entering Rajagaha, became disciples of Sanjaya, who was a renowned ascetic of that time. Sanjaya had a following of 250 disciples. Apatissa and Kalida presently attained the same stage as their teacher and were served by their disciples as befitting their position as senior disciples, and they continued to seek the path with great zeal. The two made this pact.
"Should one of us attain enlightenment, he will immediately report this to the other."
One morning, a disciple of the Buddha named Asaji made his round of begging in Rajagaha. His dignified appearance caught the attention of Apatissa, who accidentally met him on the road.
"Oh, what a noble appearance! If there are men who have attained enlightenment in this world, this mendicant is surely one of them."
Apatissa approached Asaji and thought to inquire about the path. Then, however, he thought,
"This is not the appropriate time. I must wait until he is finished with his round of begging."
And he trailed after Asaji. After Asaji had finished his round of begging and left the village, Apatissa went up to him and said,
"Friend, your body is truly filled with serenity. You are bright and clear and pure. Whom do you regard as your teacher?"
"Friend, there is a great mendicant who has left home from the Sakai clan. I am one who follows the teaching of that world-honored one."
"What manner of teaching does your teacher hold forth?"
"I have only recently come to the teaching, therefore, I am unable to explain it in detail, but to summarize it in one sentence, it can be expressed with the words, dharmas come into existence, dependent on conditions, and dependent on conditions, they cease to exist."
Apatissa listened to this teaching and became enlightened to the principle that things that come into existence without fail cease to exist. He spoke of what had happened that day to Kalida, with whom he had made the promise to do so. He also spoke of this matter to 250 of his friends. Subsequently, following Apatissa and Kalida, they all asked to practice the path under the guidance of the world-honored one. The two friends spoke about this to Sanjaya, disregarding their teacher's attempts to stop them, and leading 250 men, they went to the Bamboo Grove Monastery where the world-honored one dwelt. The world-honored one gazed at Apatissa and Kalida coming in the distance. He said to his disciples,
"Disciples, two friends are approaching here. These two will become great disciples of mine."
The two friends became disciples of the world-honored one, and before long they came to be revered as elders among the group of disciples. From that time, Apatissa was called Sariputta and Kalida was called Moggallana. But among the senior disciples, because of this rapid advance, a number of grievances arose. The world-honored one learned of this and said,
"Disciples, I made Sariputta and Moggallana elder disciples, but not out of favoritism. Their station was determined by their roots of merit and aspirations from their previous lives. It is unseemly for those who left their homes in search of supreme nirvana to quarrel over positions of rank. You must purify your minds, and, with single-minded concentration, move forward. Do not commit evil. Perform a multitude of good acts. Purify your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas."
After Sariputta and Moggallana became mendicants, the sons of a number of celebrated families in Magadha successively became disciples of the world-honored one. Because of this, the people reproached the world-honored one, saying,
"Gautama robs parents of their children, wives of their husbands, and houses of their heirs." 1,000 fire worshippers became mendicants. 250 disciples of the renowned Sanjaya became mendicants. The sons of celebrated families in Magadha became mendicants. Who will be pulled in next?
Some began to sing mocking songs when they caught sight of the Buddha's disciples.
A great mendicant appeared in the city, in the mountains of Magadha. He dragged in the disciples of Sanjaya. Whom will he snatch next?
The disciples relayed this to the world-honored one. The world-honored one said,
Disciples, these voices will not continue for long. They will fade away after 7 days. Disciples, if you go to the city and hear these voices, reply in the following manner. With the true Dharma, the Buddha guides all beings. What can arrows of jealousy do?
People heard this, and soon the mocking voices subsided. Then the world-honored one lived in the Boar's Cave on Vulture Peak, which was located northeast of Rajagaha. Sariputta's uncle, the Brahmin Moggallana, seeking to meet his nephew's teacher, came to the world-honored one. He said,
World-honored one, my principle is not to affirm anything at all.
Brahmin, if you claim not to affirm anything, you must not affirm the principle of not affirming anything.
That is so. If I affirm the principle of not affirming, then that would be affirming something.
Brahmin, there are many like you who, while maintaining negation, do not abandon negation itself. Those who are free of that error are few. In the world, there are those who say that they affirm all things and those who say that they affirm one part while not affirming another part. Among all these views, on the whole, the principle that affirms all things is closely related to greed, bondage, and attachment, and the principle that does not affirm all things is only distantly related to them. But in either case, if you firmly attach yourself to any of these principles, enemies will appear and engage in disputes, obstructions will form, and troubles will ensue. Those with wisdom perceive this and abandon those principles. Brahmin, this corporeal body is born of mother and father and is sustained by food, it is impermanent and ultimately is destroyed. It suffers, is without a self, and is empty. Perceiving this, you must free yourself from attachments and pass signs that are directed toward your corporeal body. Furthermore, there are 3 types of sensations: painful, pleasurable, and those that are neither painful nor pleasurable. These 3 sensations come into existence in accordance with conditions. They are impermanent and are destroyed. You must not become attached to them. My disciples who follow this teaching reject pleasure along with pain and the state of neither pain nor pleasure, free themselves from greed, and attain release. They live without quarreling with anyone.
At that time, Sariputta was standing in back of the world-honored one. He earnestly thought,
The world-honored one truly sets forth the teaching of freeing oneself from desire,
and he was able to free himself from defilement without any lingering traces. The Brahmin Moggallana, who perceived that things that come into existence are without fail extinguished, are also attained the eye of the Dharma. He became a follower who, throughout his life, took refuge in the 3 treasures.